My name is Helen, and by the time I turned 29, I had built a life I was really proud of. After working hard for years, I finally got a job at one of the top companies in the city. The pay was great, and I had reached one of my biggest goals, buying my own apartment. It wasn't fancy or huge, but it was all mine, paid for with my own money, and that made it feel perfect. I still remember the day clearly. It was a sunny Thursday afternoon when my younger sister Julie showed up at my door without telling me first. She was 24 and still living with our parents. That never seemed to bother her before. She was always fine with letting them take care of her while she tried to figure out her life, as she used to say. But this time, something felt different. As soon as she walked in, I noticed how she looked around my apartment. Her eyes were moving fast, like she was really studying everything. She walked from room to room, touching things and checking out the space like she'd never seen it before, even though she had visited many times before. "Your place is so nice, Britt," she said, running her hand along my kitchen counter. "You're so lucky." I laughed a little and said, "Lucky? Julie, I worked really hard for this place. You know that." She turned to look at me, and I was surprised to see tears in her eyes. "I can't take it anymore," she said suddenly. "Living with Mom and Dad is driving me crazy. I feel like they're holding me back from becoming independent." I almost choked on my coffee. Coming from Julie, this was hard to believe. She never really seemed interested in being independent before. "Since when?" I asked, trying not to sound too doubtful. "Last time we talked, you seemed pretty happy with Mom doing your laundry and Dad paying your phone bill." "That's exactly the problem," she said as she pulled out her phone. "I was reading Dr. Henry's book about relationships between adult children and their parents. It says this is a classic case of codependency. If I don't break free from Mom and Dad now, I'll be stuck there forever, just wasting away," Julie said. I put down my coffee and looked at her seriously. "Julie, what are you really asking me?" She took a deep breath, and then she finally said what she really came for. "I need your help, Britt. I want to move out, but I don't have money for the first 4 months of rent. I promise I'll find a job right away and take care of myself, just like you." Maybe it was the way she said, "just like you," or maybe I was just tired of always worrying that she'd never grow up. Whatever the reason, I found myself saying, "Okay, I'll help you." She let out a loud squeal that probably echoed through the whole building. She threw her arms around me and almost knocked me over. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're the best sister ever, Britt. I promise you won't regret this." A week later, Julie came bursting into my apartment, waving her phone in the air like she had just won a prize. "Britt, I found the perfect places. You have to see these." I was making dinner, but she pulled me over to the couch and started showing me apartment listings. My eyes nearly popped out when I saw the first one. It was in Riverside Towers, one of the most expensive buildings in the city. "Look at this view," she said excitedly. "It even has a rooftop pool, gym, and a concierge." "Julie," I said slowly, "this place costs $3,000 a month." "But it includes parking," she said, quickly swiping to another listing. "Okay, this one is a bit cheaper, only $2,800, and look at the marble countertops." I put my hand over her phone. "Stop. These places are way too expensive." I grabbed my laptop and pulled up an apartment I had found earlier. "Here, this one makes more sense. It's a 1-bedroom in a nice area. It's furnished, has basic appliances, and the rent is affordable." Julie wrinkled her nose as she looked at the pictures. "But it's so plain." "It's clean, safe, and just right for a first apartment," I said firmly. "Actually, this place is nicer than the first apartment I ever had. And it's close to a lot of stores and restaurants where you can apply for jobs." She dropped back onto my couch, clearly disappointed. "I guess." "Look," I said, trying to stay calm, "this is the kind of place that's perfect for starting out. Once you have a job and you're earning your own money, you can move somewhere nicer if you want." After what felt like an hour of trying to convince her, she finally agreed to check it out. The next day, we met with a realtor named Evelyn. She was cheerful and friendly as she showed us around the apartment. It was just like the ad had described, simple but nice, with good furniture and working appliances. Julie kept making annoyed faces when she thought I wasn't watching, but I ignored it. "We'll take it," I told Evelyn as I pulled out my checkbook. I wrote checks for the security deposit and the first 4 months of rent. Julie signed the lease, and as I watched her write her name, I felt both proud and nervous. This was really happening. Over the next few weeks, I kept calling Julie to ask how her job search was going. Her answers got more and more vague. During our last phone call, I finally ran out of patience. "Julie, I'm not going to keep paying your rent forever. You need to find a job." "Don't worry about it," she said quickly, and then hung up before I could even respond. I stared at my phone, feeling a knot in my stomach. I had a bad feeling that Julie's idea of being independent wasn't the same as mine. For months passed faster than I thought. I was busy with a big project at work when my phone buzzed. Julie's name popped up on the screen, and for a second, I hoped she had found a job. I couldn't have been more wrong. "Hey, Britt," she said casually, like she was just chatting about the weather. "Just a reminder, the rent is due on the 16th. You'll need to send money for the next 4 months. I almost dropped my coffee. "Julie," I said, trying to keep calm, "we had a deal. You were supposed to get a job and start paying your own rent. That was the whole point of this. You wanted to be independent, remember?" "Oh, come on," she cut me off. "I haven't found the right job yet, but I'm working on it. These things take time." "No, they don't," I snapped. "You've had 4 months to find anything. You said you wanted to be independent? Well, real independent people pay their own bills." She hung up so fast I could almost feel the anger through the phone. I sat back in my chair, my heart beating fast, but I felt proud for finally standing up for myself. That feeling didn't last long. Just 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it was Mom. My stomach sank before I even picked up. "Helen Marie Thompson." Mom's voice came through like a storm. "How could you say no to your sister?" She called me in tears. "Mom, I already paid for 4 months of her rent," I said. The whole point was to help her learn to take care of herself. "Independent," she snapped. "She's your sister. Family helps family. That's what we do. You have a good job and a good income. You can afford to help her." "But Mom, do you want her to end up on the street? Is that what you want? To see your little sister homeless?" The guilt hit me hard. My resolve started to fade. Mom kept going, her voice full of disappointment and blame, something she was really good at. And even though I knew she was trying to guilt-trip me, it didn't make it any easier to push back. "Fine," I finally said, my voice tight. "I'll pay for 3 more months. But this is the last time." "That's my girl," Mom said, her voice suddenly sweet. "I knew you'd do the right thing." After the call, I sent the money and texted Julie. "Rent paid for 3 more months. This is absolutely the last time. I mean it." She replied just seconds later, with one emoji, a smiling face with a halo. That little innocent emoji felt like a slap. I knew right then I had made another mistake. But what could I do? She was my sister. And Mom was right about one thing: I could afford it. A week later, I was lying in bed scrolling on my phone when I decided to check Julie's Instagram. I hadn't looked at it in a while, and what I saw made my blood boil. There she was, posing in the apartment I was paying for, like she was some kind of lifestyle influencer. Picture after picture showed her relaxing on the furniture, standing by the window in the morning light, or holding a cup of coffee next to a perfectly arranged setup on the kitchen counter. But the captions were even worse. "Living my best, authentic life. Being true to yourself is the greatest gift. Sometimes you have to choose your own path. Trust the journey." I kept scrolling through weeks of posts, my jaw getting tighter with every swipe. Not one mention of job hunting. Not a single word about trying to become independent. Just endless selfies and cheesy quotes about chasing your dreams. I couldn't take it anymore. I opened our chat and typed, "When are you actually going to start looking for a job?" She replied so quickly, it felt like she'd been waiting for me to ask. A picture popped up. It was a screenshot of an email with a company logo. It looked official. It was a job interview invite with a date, time, and place listed. My heart lifted. Finally, maybe she was starting to take things seriously. Then my phone rang. It was Julie. Did you see it? She squealed before I could even say hello. I got an interview. But Britt, I need your help with something really important.
Here we go again.
What is it? I asked. Well, I need to look professional for the interview, right? First impressions matter. I need some nice clothes, maybe a trip to the salon, just to look perfect and impress them. I was thinking you could help me out. $1,000 should cover everything. $1,000? I nearly choked. Absolutely not. Please, Britt. This could be my big chance, she said, sounding desperate. I promise I'll pay you back once I get the job. Don't you want me to get the job? The receptionist always tells the hiring manager how you look. I read about it online. I need to look amazing. Please, please, please. I rubbed my temples. Julie. Pretty please, Britt? I swear, this is the last thing I'll ever ask you for. 12 minutes. 12 full minutes of begging, promises, and emotional guilt-tripping. I knew she was trying to manipulate me. I knew it. But still. Fine, I said through clenched teeth, opening my banking app, but this is absolutely the last time. You're the best sister ever, she squealed. I love you so much. I sent the money, feeling terrible about it. But maybe, just maybe, this would finally help her get on the right path. A few days later, I called Julie during my lunch break. Hey, how did the interview go? I asked as soon as she answered. There was a short silence on the other end. What interview? She said. My stomach dropped. The one you needed $1,000 for. The one you showed me the email about. Oh, that, she said with a little laugh that made my skin crawl. Yeah, I checked out the company and honestly, Britt, it just wasn't for me. The job was super boring. Just data entry and filing stuff all day. I go crazy doing something like that. I need something more creative, you know? That was it. All the frustration I had kept inside for months finally exploded. You're not in a position to be picky, I shouted into the phone. You've never worked a day in your life. And I'm not going to keep paying your bills while you wait around for your dream job to magically appear. Oh, gotta go, Britt, she said quickly, cutting me off. Waiting for a super important call. Talk later. Then she hung up before I could say anything else. I sat at my desk, shaking with anger. Then something hit me. I opened Instagram and went to her profile. There she was. Just a few hours ago, Julie had posted a photo, not in any kind of professional outfit, but wearing a sparkly party dress. The kind of dress that probably cost every penny of the $1,000 I gave her. The caption read, "Life is a party. Dress like it." I tried calling her right away, but it went straight to voicemail. I sent her a text. Nothing. By the time work ended, I was so upset I didn't even go home. I drove straight to her apartment instead. I could hear the bass from the music thumping from down the block. As I got closer, it got louder. By the time I reached her floor, it was clear Julie was throwing a wild party. On a Saturday night, no less. I still had a spare key from when I helped her move in. My hands shook as I slid it into the lock. The door opened without a sound, but the music was so loud, no one noticed me come in. The sight inside looked like a college party. At least 30 people were packed into the tiny apartment. Drinks everywhere. Loud music.
People dancing.
And right in the middle of it all, there was Julie, wearing that same expensive dress I had paid for. Laughing, dancing, like she didn't have a single problem in the world. I was just about to walk in and confront her when suddenly, the music stopped. In the sudden silence, I heard Julie's voice loud and clear. "You guys want to know the best part?" she said, her words slightly slurred from drinking. "My sister, my rich, successful sister Helen. She pays for all of this." She waved her drink toward the apartment and nearly spilled it. I stood frozen as I listened. She kept going. "She actually gave me $1,000 for interview clothes," Julie said, making air quotes with her fingers. "Can you believe how dumb she is? I mean, look at this dress. Way better than some boring office outfit, right?" Everyone laughed. I recognized some of them, people I had met before. People who knew me. "And get this," Julie said, clearly loving the attention. "She actually thinks I'm gonna get a job. Like, Why would I even need to work when I have a sister who gives me money like a walking ATM? Julie said, taking another sip of her drink. All I have to do is cry a little about wanting to be independent, and she hands me cash. Everyone around her laughed and cheered. You're so lucky, one girl shouted. My sister would never do that. That's because your sister isn't a gullible fool, Julie replied with a smirk. I swear, Helen actually believes all that stuff I say about wanting to be responsible. Then someone in the crowd noticed me standing at the door. Their face turned pale, and they tugged on their friend's arm, pointing in my direction. Like a ripple, the realization spread through the room. One by one, the laughter stopped, replaced by awkward coughing and quiet whispers. Julie, still smiling from her big show, followed everyone's eyes until they landed on me. Her grin disappeared instantly. Her face turned white, and her drink slipped from her hand, crashing to the floor. I walked into the room, my heels tapping loudly on the wooden floor. It was so quiet, you could hear every step. I stopped right in the middle of the living room, where people had been dancing just moments before. My hands were shaking, but when I spoke, my voice was calm. So, this is what you really think of me? I said, staring straight at Julie. This is how you treat someone who's done nothing but help you? You lie to me, use me, take my money, and then joke about it in front of your friends? You think I'm stupid? The room was silent. A few guests started quietly picking up their things, trying to sneak out without being noticed. Then Julie's shocked expression changed. I saw something else in her face, something cold and familiar. I'd seen it before, but I hadn't understood what it meant until now. What are you going to do about it? She asked, her voice taking on that whiny tone she always used, but now it sounded smug, like she thought she had won. You'll keep helping me anyway. You know why? Because if you don't, I'll tell Mom and Dad.
And we both know whose side they'll take.
They always do. They'll make your life miserable until you give in and help your poor little sister again. I didn't say another word. I turned around and walked out, my head held high. Behind me, the music started up again, the bass thumping through the walls like nothing had happened. The next few weeks were quiet. Julie didn't call. And, surprisingly, neither did my parents. The silence should have felt peaceful, but instead, it felt like the quiet right before a storm. I knew it was only a matter of time before the trouble started again. After 4 months of silence, my phone pinged with a message from Julie. Rent's due for the next 4 months. I need money for food and clothes too. Send it ASAP. I couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, she still saw me as her personal ATM. I replied with a short message.
No.
I'm not giving you any more money. Ever. Right away, my phone started ringing. Julie was calling again and again. I didn't answer. For the first time, I felt calm as I watched the calls come in and ignored them. Then Mom's name appeared on my screen. Helen, she said firmly when I picked up. We need to talk. Come to the house tomorrow after work. The next evening, I pulled into my parents' driveway, feeling sick to my stomach. I had a bad feeling. As soon as I walked in, I knew I had walked into a setup. Julie was sitting on the couch, no makeup, her hair pulled back, looking like she was going through something terrible. Mom and Dad were sitting on either side of her like guards. I barely had time to shut the door before Dad started yelling. How could you do this to your sister? He said. She's about to be kicked out because of you. Do you even care what you're putting her through? Then Mom jumped in. She's barely eating. She's so stressed out. I looked at Julie, who let out a loud sniff like she was crying. It was all for show. I could feel the anger building inside me. Are you serious? I said. I paid her rent for 7 months. I gave her money for clothes, food, everything. And what did she do? She threw parties, bought fancy dresses, and then made fun of me in front of her friends. Oh, please, Mom said, waving her hand. She was just joking around. You're being too sensitive. Joking. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She called me a cash cow. She admitted to lying and using me for money. You're the older sister, Dad snapped. It's your job to help her. We raised you better than this. My job. I said, shocked. My job was to help her grow up, not to pay for her to sit around doing nothing. Julie sat quietly through the whole thing, a small, smug smile on her face. She really thought she had won. She thought she had me trapped. They all expected me to give in just like I always had. I looked at my family, my mom frowning in disappointment, my dad glaring, and Julie sitting there with that smug little smile. Something inside me snapped. "No," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I'm done. I'm not giving her another cent. She's an adult now. If she wants to live on her own, she needs to pay her own bills like the rest of us." I turned and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Dad shouting about family duty, Mom crying about how she had raised such a selfish daughter, and Julie's over-the-top fake sobs. I got in my car and drove home. My phone kept buzzing with calls and messages, but I didn't check any of them. I just turned the phone off. For the first time in months, I felt truly free. Free from the guilt. Free from being manipulated. Free from all the constant demands. A few weeks after that big argument, my cousin Kelly called me to check in. She had heard about the fight and wanted to give me some updates. "Your parents are paying Julie's rent now," she said. "They even had to take money out of their retirement savings to do it. And she still hasn't looked for a job." I had 2 peaceful months. Then one evening, my phone lit up with Mom's name. Even though I knew better, I picked up. "Helen," she said, her voice shaking. We have a problem." She told me what happened, bit by bit, stopping often because she was crying. The landlord had finally had enough. He showed up during one of Julie's wild parties, with the police. The neighbors had complained too many times. But that wasn't even the worst part. Mom's voice broke as she said, when they checked the apartment, they found out Julie had been selling the furniture and appliances. The owner's furniture. She sold them piece by piece to pay for her parties. I dropped onto the couch in shock. "She what?" "She's being charged with theft," Mom sobbed. "But the landlord said if we pay him back for everything she sold, he won't press charges. Helen, please, we need your help. Your father and I used most of our savings to cover her rent. We don't have enough." "No," I said, steady and clear. "I warned all of you this would happen if you kept covering for her. This is what happens when you protect someone from consequences their whole life." "How can you be so cold?" Mom shouted. "Yes, she's made mistakes, but she's still your sister. Think about what this will do to her future. Think about what it will do to our family." "I am thinking about her future," I said. "And maybe this is what she needs, to finally face the results of her actions." "Please, Helen," she begged one last time, her voice full of tears. "If you've ever loved your sister, goodbye, Mom." I hung up the phone. A week later, Kelly called me again.
"Thought you'd want to know," she said.
"Your parents took out the rest of their retirement savings to pay off the apartment owner. They had to cover the cost of all the furniture Julie sold, plus pay a big fee to end the lease early." "And Julie?" I asked. "She got kicked out, of course," Kelly said. "She's back living with your parents. Still not working. Still posting on Instagram about living her truth or whatever." There was a pause. "Your parents are telling everyone you turned your back on the family when they needed you most." That was 7 months ago. Julie still lives at home. She still doesn't have a job. And she still posts feel-good quotes online about surviving life storms. Mom and Dad had to delay their retirement, but they haven't changed. They're still supporting her. Still making excuses for everything she does. As for me, I haven't spoken to any of them since that last phone call. Sometimes I see photos from family holidays, ones I'm not invited to anymore. I hear from Kelly about the stories they tell, how I'm the cruel big sister who left them when things got hard. But here's the truth. Sometimes being seen as the bad guy just means you're the only one brave enough to stop the chaos. Sometimes real love means letting people deal with the results of their actions. And sometimes being family means saying no when everyone else keeps saying yes.